people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
To the mother relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that young Zarina McCoy from right here in the US of A is going to be returning to action next month in Mexico, south of the border,
En Colima, Mexico.
against Colombian-born, Panamanian-based slugger Monica Henao. Talk about this fight. This is being billed as a junior welterweight contest. Junior welterweight, or super lightweight, as it's sometimes called. That's 140 pounds. That's where Chantel Cameron currently reigns as that division's undisputed champion. Zarina McCoy has campaigned as low as super flyweight. These days, at least based on her recent activity, her last few fights, she's been climbing up in weight fight by fight. A featherweight bout, a super featherweight bout, a lightweight bout, and here we see she's at 140. That's super lightweight, or junior welter. It's the funniest thing because just the other day I saw she was calling out Senicia Estriada, who campaigns all the way down there at minimum weight. Excuse me for saying so, but Zarina McCoy, I don't think she can get down that low.
What's that, 105 pounds?
I've been saying it since I started tracking young Zarina's career as a fighter, that in spite of her having campaigned as low as super flyweight, because of her age, because of how young she is, and the fact that her body is still growing, in all likelihood, she's going to top out well above super flyweight.
That appears to be the case. She's been moving up in weight fight by fight.
Though she is still very young. She's only 21 years old, so I'd wager that the lowest Zarina McCoy can go safely, is probably super bantamweight, 122 pounds, but any lower than that.
Yeah, I think she'd be pushing it. She's going to be taking on Monica Henao up there at 140 pounds. Monica, who sports a professional record of 5 wins, 2 losses with 5 draws.
A lot of draws.
Could be a lot of home cooking.
Let's not jump to conclusions. Monica Henao is approximately 13 years older than young Zarina McCoy, and noticeably bigger, noticeably taller.
I believe she's registered as standing in at about 5'10". 5'10". Those are generous physical dimensions for a 140-pounder. Think Sandy Ryan.
Young Zarina will be the shorter fighter in the fight. Zarina, who sports a professional record of 10 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 3 knockouts. That 1 loss, that was rather controversial.
I just so happened to catch that fight. That was the Eloisa Zaraga fight.
Having seen that fight, all I can tell you is Zarina didn't lose that thing. She didn't. But, you know, boxing.
Judges.
You can smell the home cooking. In any event, Zarina's going to be taking on Monica Henao, and
interesting particulars in association with this match. I think this is the highest Zarina McCoy, highest in weight, she will have ever fought. She's fought as low as super flyweight and as high as lightweight.
I don't get the sense that beyond this fight, Zarina McCoy and her team mean to have her campaigning as a super lightweight full time. I don't necessarily think that's what's going on here. And because she's so young, she can probably get herself down to 122 pounds. 122, the lowest, but she's 21 years old.
I am pretty sure she can cut some weight. She can get herself down a few divisions.
For the right opportunity. For now, she's going to be opposite the ring, Monica Henao. Monica, an interesting character, interesting fighter. There seems to be a conversation piece here when it comes to fighters like Monica. That thin line between poster girl and pugilist. Can you really do both, and can you do both successfully? And for what it's worth, anything's possible.
I mean, of course you can. But for some fighters at the individual level, they're always one more than the other, and having seen the tape on Monica Henao and how she looks out there,
I'd be lying to you if I told you that I think she has the same ceiling that Zarina McCoy has and some other fighters that are out there that could go all the way. I don't see a world champion in Monica Henao.
Based on her form, if I'm being honest, I don't see a full-time fighter.
I've seen 1 or 2 of her matches, and I have to say that she's open for a lot of shots, a lot of punches when she's trying to land punches of her own. She's not particularly fast, not particularly sharp, or athletic.
Look, she's a boxer. She's a boxer. I'm not telling you she's not a boxer. I'm just telling you I don't see the kind of fighter that becomes a world champion, not in Monica.
There may be that which young Zarina has to overcome opposite the ring. Monica Henao, her size.
Because Zarina will be smaller than Monica.
But in terms of timing and technique and just overall ability, I think Zarina McCoy should be able to pick off Monica Henao quite comfortably. In spite of the added weight that Zarina McCoy has put on, I still think she'll be faster, and I still think she'll be sharper. At least sharp enough that she can beat Monica Henao on points. Zarina McCoy, she's a southpaw.
She's a pure boxer.
Stick and move, staying on the outside. Economic and defensively responsible. Her best punches are her straight punches.
Mid-range to inside, things could get chippy between Zarina McCoy and Monica Henao.
But so long as Zarina's consistently pumping out that jab and managing the distance, she should be able to pick off Monica Henao long range. As Monica, she's no defensive wizard.
That's an understatement.
It will be interesting to see how Zarina manages the distance against a fighter that, at least on paper, has a lot of height.
A fighter that's taller than she is.
I've not often seen Zarina opposite the ring, anyone that had a height advantage.
So Zarina McCoy, she should win. She should.
To the eye, she's just a more well-put-together young fighter, a better boxer with better technique than a Monica Henao.
Yeah, she should win.
Zarina not being very big on power, being that economic textbook pure boxer, fighting out of the southpaw stance, I don't expect this fight to end in a knockout. I expect it to go the distance, but I expect to see Zarina McCoy's hand raised.
This is supposed to be going down next month on the 17th. Keep your eyes peeled for McCoy versus Henao, south of the border.
In men's super middleweight news, ahead of what is to be his long-awaited, long-anticipated showdown with Caleb Plant, former two-time WBC champion David Benavidez says this fight is 100% personal with Plant. Gonna put a beating on him worse than Canelo, and he better, because if he doesn't, well, that's pretty catastrophic for his reputation as any kind of a monster.
A reputation that he garnered mostly pouncing on no-hopers.
With a matchup against Plant now official, Benavidez begins to salivate as he envisions landing numerous blows, although the 25-year-old is no stranger to public fulmination and competitive trash talk. In the case of Plant, the former WBC 168-pound belt holder reveals there were certain things that were said that are simply unforgivable. This fight, for me, is 100% personal with Caleb Plant, said Benavidez during an interview with BoxingScene.com. I'm really looking to go in there and beat the shit out of it.
Caleb Plant possesses a different style than the styles of fighters we're accustomed to seeing David opposite the ring with.
More the boxer than the puncher. We'll find out shortly if David Benavidez can stay in character. His physically imposing size and speed, volume.
He wants to outdo Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez, who stopped Caleb Plant late last year for what was the undisputed super middleweight championship.
It's hard to imagine that the same people that regularly belittle and diminish Canelo Alvarez's undisputed run are also the same people that are excited about this fight. What are you excited about? Canelo beat this guy already.
Knocked him out already.
So that when David Benavidez is the one opposite the ring, all of a sudden you're excited? What, is Caleb a good fighter all of a sudden? Because you don't think much of Canelo Alvarez's win over him.
But if David beats him, all of a sudden it matters?
Not dissimilar from what we saw one division south at middleweight. You know, Danny Jacobs, he actually gave Sergey Didivianchenko his first professional loss back when Sergey was an unbeaten fighter. And that didn't seem to garner much buzz for Daniel Jacobs, but when Jermel Charlo fights him a couple of fights later, after he's already lost to Danny and he's already lost to Gennady, all of a sudden beating Sergey matters.
Mental gymnastics.
That's what it is. In truth, Benavidez versus Plant is a good fight, and it is an intriguing fight.
But it's bad optics that David could have fought this guy a long time ago, back when they were both unbeaten champions, both belt holders in the super middleweight division, and you wait good up until somebody else knocks him out before you fight him.
Yeah, it's bad optics. The fight between Caleb and David is intended to be a segue towards a Canelo Alvarez showdown. A Canelo Alvarez fight for David Benavidez, the WBC's interim champion. Canelo, who plans on returning in May in a tune-up kind of fight, then going back into a Dimitri Bivol rematch in September. In truth, I don't like his chances against Dimitri.
Personally, I think he should fight David. He's a lot more basic and a lot more beatable.
I think he should fight David, and so does David Benavidez. David Benavidez, who fired back at Canelo saying, "Who the fuck cares if I fought one world champion? Come beat me."
Yeah, Canelo said in so many words that David hasn't fought anybody. He's only beaten one reigning world champion, Anthony Durrell.
Which is true. For two-time WBC super middleweight champion and unbeaten one, David Benavidez has a rather thin, paper-thin resume. He's been there through two separate cycles of alphabet champions, two separate cycles of world champions, and he's only beaten one. That's what Canelo Alvarez said in so many words, and to that, David responded by saying everything he's saying is bullshit. These rankings in the WBC are there for a reason. I've won two back-to-back title eliminators for a reason and won the interim belt. Man, that's the fight everybody is talking about. Who the fuck cares if I fought one world champion? If I'm so easy like he says and he's not scared to beat me, come beat me. That'd be a valid point. Valid critique if he weren't trying to fight a better, more proven fighter, a champion. David would have a case if Canelo Alvarez weren't hell-bent on getting back in the ring with Dimitri Bivol, who for my money is a more difficult fighter to deal with for Canelo specifically. That's a more difficult fight for Canelo than David Benavidez. I mean, the guy that Dimitri just beat, Zurdo Ramirez, him and David are...
They're cut from the same cookie cutter, those two guys.
A few differences aside, Zurdo being a southpaw, whereas David, he's an orthodox fighter. Zurdo having the cojones to actually move up to light heavyweight, whereas David's been sitting in the kiddie pool, still sits in the kiddie pool.
Big as he should have moved up to light heavyweight a long time ago. It's a reason that he hasn't.
And as stated, him and Zurdo, they're the same kind of fighter. They've got one or two differences, but they're the same kind of fighter.
Your biggest weapon is your size.
And that's the kind of thing that works up until it doesn't. For now, no matter how badly the Phoenix, Arizona native would love to get his hands on the pound-for-pound star, he'll place his focus on his own career. Should he continue his winning ways, Benavidez believes that at some point, Alvarez will have no choice but to fight him.
Had he done his due diligence a long time ago, he wouldn't still be harping about an Alvarez fight now. I said it then. I said it when they were both unbeaten champions.
You need to take care of Caleb Plant. You probably can't collect all the belts, but you can collect his because he's on the same side of the street as you are. So should Canelo Alvarez one day integrate himself into your division, you'll bring something to the table. You expect to be a priority to this guy when you ain't got nothing to offer.
It's what he's now expecting. After Canelo did all the legwork, did all the dirty work at 168 pounds.
He unified that entire weight class in 11 months, roughly 11 months. And now he wants to get back in the ring with Dimitri Bivol. That seems to be more of a priority to Canelo Alvarez than David Benavidez, and it's kind of self-explanatory, ain't it? Not only does he have unfinished business with Dimitri, but Dimitri's a champion, a full-fledged champion. You're not.
You suck.
You ain't got a better resume at super middleweight than Dimitri has at light heavyweight. He's fought the likes of Sullivan Barrera, Joe Smith Jr., John Pascal.
Canelo Alvarez.
More recently, unbeaten former super middleweight champion Zurdo Ramirez. You can't convince people that Canelo's so afraid of you when he wants to fight a better fighter than you are.
He's already proven he's willing. He already has. It didn't work out for him, but now he wants to run it back. I'd prefer that Canelo fight David
instead of Dimitri. I do. But if he's willing to fight Dimitri for a second time after having dropped a decision to him, does that not prove?
What the hell's he gonna be afraid of you for? You haven't beat anyone.
I think that's what Canelo Alvarez was trying to say. Finally, in men's lightweight news, well-known boxing scribe Marcos Villegas of Fight Hub posted a tweet to social media that reads, just got a text message saying that Gervonta is no longer with Mayweather Promotions, but still advised by Al, as in Al Heyman. I don't recognize the number.
Initially, Marcos Villegas posted an actual screenshot of the number, and it was a 202 area code, 202. That's Washington, D.C. Marcos Villegas has since deleted that screenshot,
as the phone number that initially made the text message was in full view, also lending credence to the notion that whoever that was, they're in the know, they're in the loop, and they know what they're talking about.
And they didn't just send that text message to Marcos Villegas, they also sent it to Dan Rafael of Fight Freaks Unite.
Whoever this is, they felt it important to get the news out there that Gervonta Davis has since parted ways with Leonard Ellerbe, Floyd Mayweather, and Mayweather Promotions. He's still being advised by Al, and that bit of it we already talked about. That bit of it we already covered, that not much has really changed. Gervonta Davis is still fighting on the Showtime platform, even if it's not under the Mayweather Promotions banner.
There are a few things about this that stand out. Initially, I saw the number where the text came from. It was a 202 area code. That's Washington, D.C., which is approximately 30 to 40 minutes in good traffic.
30 to 40 minutes from Baltimore on I-95. Whoever this is, they're in proximity, or they were in proximity, of Gervonta Davis's old stomping grounds. That stands out.
Is it a coincidence that whoever this is, this privileged intel, this privileged information they're divulging to two well-known boxing scribes, is it a coincidence that they're within proximity of Baltimore?
Is it also a coincidence that they seem to have the contact information, contact numbers for well-known boxing scribes like Marcos Villegas and Dan Rafael? That's the kind of thing that...
It's the kind of information that somebody in the industry, somebody in the business, might have.
You know who to talk to. You know who to tell. How'd you get those people's numbers?
And is it also a coincidence that not but a day or so ago, Gervonta Davis himself, by way of his own social media, was asking Floyd Mayweather and Leonard Ellerbe for his walking papers?
Is it a coincidence that this phantom text message sent to both Dan Rafael and Marcos Villegas seems to corroborate what Gervonta Davis himself tweeted by way of his own social media? The tweet has since been deleted.
Which we've all come to expect. It has since been deleted, though not before I myself took some screenshots.
Why is everybody being so cloak and dagger about this? Your guess is as good as mine. I can only deduce that in spite of not that much changing about Gervonta Davis's career, because he's still on the Showtime platform, it's not that dramatic a change for him, but it is a rather dramatic change for Mayweather Promotions. They just lost their top draw, their top guy, Leonard Ellerbe. What's he gonna do now if he ain't got Gervonta to promote?
The guy who was mouthing off to Eddie Hearn a few months ago, saying that Eddie don't know what the hell he's doing. Eddie has trouble with his fighters sometimes. Sometimes they leave the banner.
It happens to everybody, really. Happens to Frank Warren, happens to Bob Arum, happens to Eddie Hearn. More recently, it may have happened to Leonard Ellerbe, with the difference being that
they can afford to lose a body or two, but if you lose Gervonta, what else have you got?
The thing between Lawrence Okolie and Eddie Hearn. Lawrence wants to leave Matchroom, and he may end up leaving Matchroom, but even if he does, Matchroom's no worse for wear. They got plenty of other fighters, plenty of other champions, whereas in the case of Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions, if they lose Gervonta Davis...
What else have you got?
Rolly Romero?
Is that it?
Promotional outfits lose fighters all the time, but those promotional outfits may not have as much riding on one fighter, just one fighter, the way that Mayweather Promotions had it all riding on Gervonta Davis, because outside of Gervonta, who else is their next top draw?
Who's their next top guy? Who's their blue chip prospect?
Who's going to carry the banner now? And what happens to Leonard Ellerbe if he doesn't have Gervonta Davis to promote? Surely the workload has significantly decreased.
I don't know. Maybe he can go rub baby oil on Floyd's head.
Which one?
Leonard Ellerbe may be out of a job.
That's not wishful thinking. That's just an observation that the bulk of Leonard's work seemed to have been centered around Gervonta.
So what happens now?